Hello. It is Larry, the GM, and hopefully this is coming through. I'm going to do a real quick sound check because I don't want to do all this and then not have it show up. Sorry, guys. I guess there's a better way for me to do this, but please be patient with me. Give me 10 seconds. All right, test. All right, yes. Okay, I hear it. Okay, let's go. What we're going to do today, we are going to talk to you about the Texas versus Ohio State matchup. Everybody is giving you data, everybody's giving you their opinions. I'm going to give you a data based approach to drawing conclusions about this game. But I'm going to take you on the journey there by helping you understand what I when I talk about the total talent rating system and the way I build my depth charts. I want you guys to see it, and then we're going to understand where we're going to go on this journey. All right, so let's go quickly through 3 articles are linked in the description to this video. The first one will be this one. It'll give you the basics of the total talent rating system. I'm going to give you the 30-second or less summary of it, and then you can read it. And because I give you examples in there of Calvin Banks and some others, including an interesting discussion about Brock Purdy. But here's the story: total talent rating. I think of what makes a player great and therefore his team great is both his innate abilities, his God-given abilities. That is often reflected in the recruiting ranking when he shows up on campus. All right, when they go through the recruiting, and we can argue whether or not recruiting services do good jobs with the recruiting rankings or not. I'm not going to have that argument with you. I'm just going to tell you that is one of the ways we can measure their God given ability. The other is development, and the way I do that is I use PFF ratings and as a reflection of how good that player is playing. And my argument would be the better he plays, the more he's developing as a player. And that though so I reflect that at the end of the day, and I show this with the top picks in the draft, how they have super high total talent ratings. And that is the basis for what I'm about to talk to you. So talent, 2 elements: their God given ability and then their development. And that's what college football is all about. There's that. All right. Then we take you on a journey of understanding where the Texas total talent rating compares this year compared to last year. We do that by going through the depth charts before the season. Now, my Texas Longhorn football data has the development data from 2019, I think, all the way to through last year. Okay, so that the data for Texas, when I'm just doing a deep dive on 2024 versus 2025, I've got multiple years worth of data, which is really a better reflection of what I'm trying to say in the total talent rating system. For every other team that I'm going to do a comparison with, because my ability to pull data from PFF is limited on before 2024. I have the 2024 data. I do not have 2023, 22, 21 data for every other program in the nation because it's not in an easily downloadable table in PFF. If somebody can help me get it, then I'll be glad to use it and build it in. I've got places for it in my data table. I'll probably show you one of those before we're done. All right, but that's a journey. Let's understand that the data here for Texas going into week 1, career development, 2025. You see, here we are. Arch Manning had a really good year last year. The blue in this column right here. The darker the blue, the better the year. And the more darker the green, the worse the year. The PFF, the total talent rating, you see that Trey Moore is here. I mean, you guys probably don't read this. I'll give you the critical data. Trey Moore here is at the highest TTR into the season. Make note of that. At 141. That's because he's had more time to grow as a player. Now you also will see that players like Anthony Hill, Malik Muhammad, Colin Simmons, and several others. The Texas Longhorn defense is excellent. Okay, if you didn't figure already that now, their total talent rating weighted average is 118. That's sky high. Um, the they're just the average, not the weighted average, weighted on the number of snaps they've had in their career, but the average is 112. You'll notice that Grayson Littleton is here on the 2025 depth chart as a nickelback. He's apparently beaten out some of the other players that have a higher TTR because he has no career snaps with the Longhorns. So he's a freshman. So it'll be really interesting to see what we're doing there. On the offense, you see that Parker Livingstone, similar redshirt freshman in this case, Parker Livingstone, 91.2. He's developed a little bit, very, very little amount from his initial recruiting rating. And you see the other players. You notice that all the talk about the offensive line, how the worry with the Texas offense is the offensive line, that's reflected here in the TTR. You get the second team and the third unit, you see the whole of the Longhorns. All right, now let's look at this compared to 2024. You notice that Quinn Ewers had a super high TTR going into the season. Now, guys, I have a strong belief that Quinn Ewers was really hurt last year, and his performance suffered through the season because of it. But there's the TTRs. You'll notice that there's not Jedi Barron at 129 and Trey Moore again at 123 were the highest players on defense. Kelvin Banks at 141.7 and Quinn Ewers at 144 were the top players on offense. So you can go back and forth as you look at this article. You can compare the 2024, 2025. This will give you a sense of how really good is the Texas Longhorns. Now, the realities are, and you'll see that in this next table, the 2024 Texas Longhorns had a career total of 32,000 snaps headed into the season last year. The Texas Longhorns in 2025 have 22,000 career snaps as a total. So that team was much more, and you can see this as you look at the depth chart for the Longhorns this year. There's a lot of sophomores. Colin Simmons is a sophomore. Anthony Hill Jr. is a junior. There's not a lot of seniors. There's a few on both sides of the starting lineup, but not a ton. What's interesting is if you look back at where we were last year heading into the season, if you were to say the weakest links as far as the TTR was concerned, total talent rating was concerned, on offense would have been Gunnar Helm and Cam Williams and Michael Taft, just because Michael Taft comes into the system, the TTR system, with a walk-on level recruiting ranking, right? He had developed significantly, but he had a tremendous junior year. I guess he was a redshirt junior at that point last year. And so Bill Norton was the other potential, I guess you call it the weakest link on the 2014. 2025, you don't see a player that's actually as low as Gunnar Helm was last year. And you don't see a player as low as Michael Taft was last year in the TTRs. That's an important element. The team is more balanced than they are, but they don't have any 140-point players. Only, I guess, say Trey Moore is the only 140-point player headed into the season. All right, so if you compare The first unit offense, total TTR, 112 average last year, 104 this year. That's a pretty big gap, guys. And I'm learning exactly what level gaps are significant. You have Texas a 107 last year on defense, a 112 this year. Guys, this year's defense, that's saying this year's defense, even though they have less career snaps, it's 17,000, almost 18,000 last year, just over 13,000 this year. More career snaps last year, but uh, but the starting lineup has more career snaps this year. So that defense could be, should be, probably is better than last year's defense, which was one of the best defenses in college football. All right, so you see the total ratings, uh, 110 versus 108. You can see the average PFF ratings. You see that the PFF score, it's basically very close on the offense, and again a little bit better on the defense, and overall just a tad better for the 2025 team. That means the average PFF rating that those players have had in the games they played, the 2025 defense, 2025 team is likely a little more talented. If you look at it by units, and this is like, okay, the quarterbacks and the running backs, the wide receivers. You can see the quarterback. Again, we had Quinn Ewers at 144 or 140 something. The quarterback, again, this is the narrative, right? Well, what do we really know about Arch Manning, right? So that's reflected here. It's only a little bit above his basically 99.9 recruiting rating on average. That brings it down. So the way I weighted these, I gave the starting unit a 5, the second unit a 2, and the third unit a 1, and then I did a weighted average on those. So you can see that the running backs, because you have Trey Wisner and you have you have Baxter, guys. The running backs are a huge strength of this team, a huge strength. C.J. Baxter, 107 in the second string, and Trey Weiser 108 in the first string. That's incredible running back depth heading into the season. And you can see the wide receivers are a little bit down. And again, I was picking up on Gunnar Helm earlier. You know, the tight end unit would have been the lowest rated unit going into last year. And yet this year, with the learn the name Jack Andrews, 117, basically the second highest on offense with DJ Campbell. That's because you can see the snaps here, really high snap count. So guys, we're talking about a tight end unit, which is better. We're talking about a wide receiver unit that has less experience, obviously. The much younger unit this year than were last year, and then you can see the offensive line. It's significantly reduced, and this is because that unit last year had 5 starters. Most of them had a bunch of experience. You can see that in the table. Look at the defense. Defensive line, a little less experience, a little lower TTR. But look at the linebackers. The linebackers are significantly better, significantly higher rated coming into the season. And then even the defensive backfield that last year had Jahdae Barron in it, and his extreme high level of experience, that high TTR, guys. This is saying that the TTR for the defensive backfield this season is better than last. All right, so and you can see where the averages are as far as the PFF ratings. Let's compare Ohio State and Texas. All right. So now we're going to look at the Texas Longhorn squad, and with only looking at the 2024 development data in it. So these numbers are going to be a little bit different than what you see, but they're going to compare to the numbers that we have for Ohio State. All right. So there's your Texas Longhorn data. You guys can, the link for this is in the article or in the description. Jump on the link. These articles are free. Here's your Ohio State. If you're an Ohio State fan that's come here just because you did a search on Ohio State, Texas, and you've been waiting for the analysis of the game. All right, I'm sorry, 15 minutes in. I gave you a little lesson about who the Texas Longhorns are. Here's the Ohio State Buckeyes and their team. Longhorn fans, you can jump on the link and learn about the depth chart. You guys may actually want to print this out and have these depth charts in front of you as this game's going on to really understand what's going on and the level of performance that these players have had in the past. That's the PFF rating, and the development and recruiting pedigree that built into their TTR rating. All right, so there you go. There's your first, second, third string for Ohio State. Well, let's compare them just like we did the comparison between the 24 team and the 25 Texas Longhorn team. We did the comparison here. Guys, I'm sorry. I guess the yard guy just decided to come. Now my dog's barking. If we look at the Texas Longhorns and Ohio State Buckeyes, you notice that the Buckeyes are slightly better, 103 to 102.6 on offense. The defense, the Longhorns are 105.6. The Buckeyes are 105. Guys, the average of these two teams, one overall, 104.1, 104. If somebody tells you and it's strongly worded like we know what's going to happen in this game, the TTR is telling you that's not the analysis that I have going into this game. These two teams are really, really close. Now, if you want to say, okay, well, that means the Buckeyes are going to win because they're at home, I'm not gonna fight you on that. They, depending on how big the home field advantage is, these two teams have very close levels of experience. The Longhorns are slightly more snaps last year than the Buckeyes. The defense has a lot more snaps for the Longhorns than the Buckeyes, and the Buckeye offense has more snaps, which is kind of what's actually making the TTR. It's basically they have the same general talent level, and it's just a matter of who's got more experience with the number of snaps that they've had. So that's what I described for you here. I gave you several bullet points. These two teams are really, 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 really close. I do want to take you back. The one thing I say further down, understand that the Longhorns, if you look at, let's go Ohio State first. If you dig into the Ohio State data, you've got two players on the starting unit that are blue as far as their TTR. That's Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. They raise up the average of their units significantly. They are the equivalent of like 2 to 3 points of that average, raising it up from the rest of their teams. Notice that for the Longhorns, we don't, because we take all of Trey Moore's previous experience before last year out. He's now a 110 in this. And you've got a very balanced Texas Longhorn team, including with Grayson Littleton in there as a true freshman. Guys, it's crazy how balanced the Longhorn defense is and how balanced the snaps are in addition on defense. And you see the offense has a few points, a few pockets where there's not a lot of snaps career-wise, including Brandon Baker, right? 60 snaps, Nato Amuzalo, 81 snaps, Parker Livingstone, the redshirt freshman, 28 snaps. So you can see, guys, the Longhorns, they don't have any 130-point players when you compare them only on the 2024 development embedded in the analysis. So we're talking about a flatter team, Texas, versus Ohio State that's got these two guys who were just legendary last year. So how does that play out? Well, if you look in the data, if you look at the star levels, the Texas has 8 4-star level players. They have 4 players They have 8 players that are above 108 in TTR. The Ohio State Buckeyes have 5, including the 2 that are above the 4.5 level. Okay, so which is going to rule out the 2 Ohio State players that are almost at a 5-star TTR level, or are the 8 4-star Texas Longhorns players going to way out? Guys, here's my point. These 2 teams are so evenly matched, so close. This is going to be a great battle. Look forward to it. If somebody tells you they know who's going to win this game and they give you some hot take to support their opinion, just know that's what it is. The data is really, really close. It does not lean to either one of the 2 teams winning. And I'm sorry for my dog being in the background. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Thanks for jumping in and I'm watching. And hey, while you're here, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to do a TTR rating review before every game. Take care. Bye-bye.